Yup, it's a daily ramble. So I see you've all seen the Hamas Harris using the media again to say that it's children's. Where he goes, don't mind just threatening me. He goes, but when you threaten me children, it's a different story. It's the age-old trick of making you actually feel sorry for your captive, or your captor, should I say. All that's made up. Like, there's no one out there going around threatening Hamas Harris's children. It's all lies to keep the simple NPCs, you know. Oh, isn't that terrible what they're saying about Harris's children? Isn't that horrible? We must defend him. We must protect him. You see, puts them in that frame of mind. Because like once they come under, and he has been under a good bit of pressure, say the last 3-4 weeks with the hashtag Harvey thing. But what did he do in the whole time that all the attention was being put on that? He just ignored it, you know. And instead he went on to talk about accepting 200 bleeding new arrivals from Palestine to ease the pressure off everything that's happening over there, you know. I suppose it's like, well, they've added to their thing. They've added a new section onto their new little waiting room now, huh? I suppose it's going to get longer now with all the non-nationals committing all these crimes, whatever. Yeah, so the whole spiel about Harris lately and the threats against him, just know that it's been done for a reason, right? It's been done on purpose. There's people out there who have threats every day, but because he is who he is and the position he holds, everyone's supposed to like feel sorry for him, you know. And I can guarantee you now, up to 90 to 95% of Ireland don't give a fuck about Harris or any of his family. Who gives a fuck about them? He's a traitor, you know. He sold Ireland out so he can go and fuck himself. There's another thing here I'm going to add on to this spot. Give me a second. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to add on was this big push you're seeing now by the lefty NPC sort of woke crowd is taking down the tricolours because they see the tricolour as the Irish people marking their territory. Well, shit, you not. They use these words. They see it now as a territorial battle. Whenever there's a tricolour up in an area, it's a territorial battle and it has to be taken down. And we had some local councillors complain about the tricolours being up. You know, this is what makes me laugh, right? They see the tricolour, the green, white and orange, as a threat, but the black, red and white, or green, whatever it is, of Palestine isn't. No, the pro-pan-Arab flag. That's why if you look over there at the likes of Egypt and Syria and all, they're all using the same three colours because they're all part of this pan-Arab agreement. I forget which year it came to. Maybe the 70s, sometime in the 70s, 60s, 70s. So they're all in agreement there. But yeah, when you have big crowds in Ireland marching through town, they've no problem with that flag being marched. Like a flag that represents the Arab world over conquering everything, you know. It's exactly what that flag represents. It represents the Arabs basically ruling everything, you know. It's called a pan-Arab flag. Google it and have a look for yourself. We'll go off on a tangent about it, but I won't. But yeah, you have local councillors now in Dublin. Could be other places in Ireland as well, because to say the flags are only getting raised in Dublin is a bit naive. I'd imagine it's happening all over the country, you know. And yes, people are going to look at this video and hear me talking about the tricolour and go, well, it's not a real flag, so what does it really matter? Symbolism is a very powerful thing, you know. And I can see why they feel threatened by it, because you can unite people under a flag, you know. And the reason now they're coming down so hard on it is because it's spread, you know. There was a couple of months ago, I'd say it was about 4 or 5 months ago, there was a lad going around on my road with by himself, right, with a ladder and loads of tricolours, and he was putting them up. And me and another chap on the road were out talking to him, and he was still like talking to this young fella. You could still see he was at that angry stage, you know, this fucking, you know, fucking get them off, fucking out, you know, no sugarcoating anything, you know. But he was still at that angry stage of all this, which I'm sure most of us have been through and are probably still living through a bit, you know, the angry stage of all of this. Whereas you want to scream at the world, why the fuck don't more people see what's actually happening, you know? But then, of course, you get wiser, you know. The longer you're paying attention to all this, you get wiser, and then you sort of understand that these people who don't, forget the people who are opposing anything that we're saying, right? But let's just take the people who stay neutral, or try to stay neutral in all of this, you know. They're also, if anything, they're probably the biggest cowards, because they're witnessing it with everything with their own eyes. They're seeing all these videos on social media of town having areas like cordoned off. Like the other day we had 6 areas in town cordoned off because some non-national went on a mad one, brandishing a knife everywhere. I put a post up about it, go have a look. So if anything, these people who are trying to stay neutral in all of this, they're the biggest cowards, you know. The lefty NPC woke type who oppose everything that we might say, you could say they have a little bit of courage, in the sense of, you know, they're saying what they're saying and they're not letting people, you know, even if, say, Airside tried to put them down, it doesn't, it just fuels them even more, you know. So they're not afraid of any type of label, or I suppose in a way kind of like us, you know, not afraid of these labels that they throw around. But when you add on to that lefty NPC woke type, when you add on to the fact that most of their marches and counter protests are organised and paid for, you know, a good majority of them, maybe not all of them are getting paid, but a good majority of them are getting paid. You know, the ones that would be behind organising such events, and they come out against the weirdest things. Like, they came out against let women speak, you know, and so that's immediately says to you that they're obviously being paid, because all she was over here doing, this Posey Parker, all she was over here doing was giving local women in Dublin the opportunity to speak about things that happened to them, you know. But there was this force out there, this lefty NGO woke type, didn't want the women speaking up about their abuse that they had, you know. So what's that tell you? It's like someone or some force out there trying to silence women speaking up for themselves. And you know, that plays into everything that we're seeing now, because these lads that they're bringing in, yeah, they don't respect women. Women are just objects to them, you know. And if more actually paid attention to that, rather than turning around and saying, oh well, he's fleeing war, you know, he's fleeing, and we said all that was coming as well. They're going to say they're going to be fleeing war, they're going to be fleeing climate crises, you know, They're fleeing persecution because they're gay. We called all that stuff fucking 4 or 5 years ago. Do you know? Even knew the excuses that these unvetted males are going to give. And sure enough, when they do come in, that's what gets fed to them. That's the script that they get fed is, well, just say you're a homosexual. You know? It puts like this invincible shield around you and no one can say anything negative about you. I'm nearly sure that's why they put the likes of Radgar and all in charges, because, you know, they can then hide behind that gay shield that's been perpetrated and hyped up even more with the Rainbow Squad, you know, just to drill into people how important it is that we protect all gay people, all this stuff, blah 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 blah. Of course, I know that they purposely use LGBTQRST. They purposely use that to get to the children. That's why they're using that. That's why they're using the rainbow flag. You know, things that you see in fairy tales like unicorns. That's why they use all those things, so they can drill it and brainwash the children. I went off there on one, but yeah, that's why I wanted to add it on to the Hamas Harris section, was this other thing about them being worried and concerned about the tricolour going up everywhere. Yeah, some people say, well, it's not our flag, but it doesn't really matter. No, it's something that a lot of people in Ireland are uniting under, so therefore they can't allow it. Because if they allow that momentum to keep like having that snowball effect around the tricolour, well, then you're just going to have more people then that are going to want to ask more questions and say, why is my country being flooded with unvetted males from Africa and the Middle East and God knows where else, you know? Or even coming in from Brazil and all. I say Middle East, you might as well include Asia as well, because with India and Pakistan and all that, there's fucking loads of them over here. Loads of them. And I'll add to this as well, I've seen a video, I think I seen Mousy play it there the other day, where, oh no, it wasn't Mousy, it was Prophet Simons played it, and it was this Irish girl, two Irish girls, and they were talking to each other in Irish in the back of a taxi, and the Indian taxi man interrupts them and goes, look, I'd appreciate if you didn't speak in Irish, because when you do, I think you're talking about me. Now you see, that's the mentality of these males. That's the mentality of these males. They will do anything just so they can interact with white Irish women, and just like, you know, just play head games with them, you know, just fucking head games constantly with the women, because they see women as property. There was one in my local shop the other day, and I knew he was taking the piss, right? And he was like basically standing over this Irish girl, asking her how to put credit in a phone, right? And the woman in the shop goes, she said my name, and she goes, oh, do you know how to put this phone credit? This man's been in the shop the last 15 minutes asking people. And I'm like, just tell him to get out of your fucking shop. So I turned around and said, what's the story with your thing? He goes, I just need to, I don't know how to put the credit in the phone with all this shit, right? I was just glad to take his attention off the young one in the shop. And I said, you do the normal. I said, you do the 1471. It says it all there. Look, on your little thing that you get, the receipt that you get. You know, the code on the bottom that you put in. The ready to goes. I haven't used ready to go in a while, but I remember them. And when I said it to him once, he understood and it worked. Isn't that weird? You know? But he'd been fucking harassing the girls in the shop for the last 15-20 minutes about how to do it. See, that they've just a different mentality. Like, that in a way it's going to kind of disrupt trust that Irish girls and women are going to have in men in general, with these men that are constantly doing this, constantly harassing them, you know. Could you tell me how to put this in my phone, blah blah blah, all this stuff, all them little small things. When I just turned around and said, it's all there on the fucking thing, you just type 1471. He knew that, you see. He knew how to do it, but he was using it as an opportunity to interact or harass, like I would say, this Irish girl or multiple people in the shop at the time. So yeah, that's just their mentality, you know. They are not like, these males are not like us at all, and it's just gonna make things like the trust side of things, you know, it's just gonna erode that even more. There's so many layers to everything, isn't there? Do you know? But yeah, I just thought I'd add that bit on. Of course, them people who want to take down the tricolour off flagpoles in Ireland is absolute traitors. May of course be put upon anyone doing that. Like, want to take a tricolour down. Scumbags.